How well do you know Truman Capote? Capote was openly gay at a time when it was still taboo to be so, and he often faced discrimination because of his sexuality. He also claims to have had an affair with Marlon Brando. He was childhood friends with Harper Lee, author of To Kill a Mockingbird, and the character Dill in Lee's novel was based on Capote's distinctive voice and mannerisms. Capote was a notorious party host and socialite, known for throwing extravagant parties attended by celebrities in high society. He was a meticulous researcher and interviewer, conducting hundreds of hours of interviews for his groundbreaking true crime novel, In Cold Blood. Capote struggled with substance abuse throughout his life and died of liver disease at the age of 59. Capote claimed to have slept for only 2 hours a night for years. How well do you know Haruki Murakami? Murakami owned a jazz bar called Peter Cat in Tokyo before becoming a full-time writer, showcasing his diverse interests beyond literature. Murakami is an avid runner and has completed over 30 marathons, often incorporating themes of running and physical endurance into his novels. Murakami's works often blur the lines between fantasy and reality, featuring surreal elements and dreamlike sequences that challenge conventional narrative structures. Murakami's novel, Norwegian Wood, catapulted him to international fame, becoming a bestseller and earning him widespread acclaim for his poignant portrayal of love and loss. Murakami's writing is heavily influenced by Western literature and music, with references to authors such as Franz Kafka and musicians like the Beatles peppered throughout his works. How well do you know Margaret Atwood? Atwood is an avid bird watcher and often incorporates birds and bird imagery into her writing. She was once a distant relative of Queen Elizabeth II and King Charles III. Atwood invented the long pen, a robotic signing device that allows authors to remotely sign books. She was a voracious reader as a child and wrote her first novel, The Edible Woman, while pursuing a graduate degree in English literature. Atwood is a passionate advocate for environmental causes and has written extensively about the dangers of climate change in her fiction and non-fiction. Atwood was a direct descendant of Mary Webster, who was accused of witchcraft during the Salem witch trials. Atwood's dystopian novel, The Handmaid's Tale, has been adapted into a successful television series. How well do you know Agatha Christie? In 1926, Agatha Christie disappeared for 11 days, which sparked a nationwide search and garnering widespread media attention. Agatha Christie's play The Mousetrap holds the record for the longest initial run of any play in history, having been performed continuously in London's West End since 1952. Christie's works have been translated into more languages than those of any other writer except Shakespeare, making her one of the best-selling authors of all time. Christie wrote her first novel, The Mysterious Affair at Styles, during World War I, launching her career as the queen of mystery fiction. Christie was a prolific writer, producing numerous novels, short stories, and plays over the course of her career, with her works continuing to captivate readers and audiences worldwide. How well do you know Gabriel Garcia Marquez? Marquez claimed to have smoked marijuana with Bill Clinton during a visit to Colombia. Marquez wrote most of his novels in a small, windowless room while wearing a robe, creating a cocoon-like atmosphere for his writing. Marquez's novel, 100 Years of Solitude, is considered one of the greatest works of magical realism, blending elements of fantasy with realistic portrayals of Colombian history and culture. Marquez's novel, Love in the Time of Cholera, is considered one of the greatest love stories of all time. Marquez was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1982, becoming the first Colombian and one of the most prominent Latin American authors to receive the honor. Marquez's writing often explores themes of love, memory, and the passage of time, capturing the complexity and beauty of human experience in his vividly imagined worlds. How well do you know Franz Kafka? Did you know that Kafka burned 90% of his own work before his death, instructing his friend to burn the rest? He wrote most of his works while working as an insurance clerk, struggling to find time for his writing amidst his demanding job. Kafka struggled with insomnia and wrote in his diary about experiencing intense, vivid dreams, which often influenced his writing. He had a strained relationship with his father, who disapproved of his writing and pressured him to pursue a more conventional career. His works often explore themes of existentialism, alienation, and bureaucracy, reflecting his own feelings of isolation and frustration. He struggled with feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt, which he often expressed in his diaries and letters. How well do you know Charles Dickens? Dickens had a fascination with mesmerism, also known as hypnotism, and the paranormal, and was known to attend seances and explore supernatural phenomena. Dickens had a pet raven named Grip, who inspired characters in his novels and was later immortalized in Edgar Allan Poe's poem The Raven. Dickens had a fear of being buried alive, leading him to insist on being buried with a handkerchief tied around his neck, a bell, and a ventilation tube. He also slept facing the door with a candle burning for security. Dickens was known for his unusual writing rituals, including facing north while he wrote and keeping a specific arrangement of objects on his desk. Dickens once survived a train crash in Staplehurst, Kent in 1865, which he later wrote about in his story The Signal Man. How well do you know George Orwell? Orwell kept a goat named Muriel during his time on the island of Jura, where he wrote 1984. Orwell fought in the Spanish Civil War and was injured by a sniper's bullet, an experience that deeply influenced his views on politics and totalitarianism. Orwell served as an officer of the British Imperial Police in Burma, an experience that influenced his views on imperialism and authoritarianism and inspired his first novel, Burmese Days. Orwell was a prolific essayist, penning over 500 essays in his lifetime on a wide range of topics, including politics, literature, and culture. Orwell's real name was Eric Arthur Blair, but he chose to write under a pseudonym to avoid embarrassment to his family from his controversial political views. Orwell worked as a dishwasher in Paris to fund his writing and immersed himself in the city's bohemian culture. How well do you know Virginia Woolf? Woolf wrote her novels while standing up, using a lectern to support her writing materials. Woolf had an intense fear of open spaces, known as agoraphobia, which often confined her to her home. Woolf had an intense fear of thunderstorms as well, and would often be paralyzed with fear during storms. Woolf's writing was heavily influenced by experiences with mental illness, which she detailed in her diaries and letters. Woolf's novel Mrs. Dalloway takes place over the course of a single day in post-World War I England, capturing the inner thoughts and experiences of its characters. How well do you know Lewis Carroll? Lewis Carroll was a pseudonym for Charles Ludwig Dodgson, who was a mathematician and logician. He suffered from a rare neurological disorder known as migraine with aura, which may have influenced his writing, particularly the surreal aspects of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Carroll had a close friendship with Alice Liddell, the inspiration for Alice in Wonderland, which some speculate was romantic in nature, during which he would tell them stories. He was an avid photographer and took many portraits of children, some of which are now considered controversial due to their suggestive nature. Carroll had a stammer, which he often overcame by speaking in a high-pitched voice when addressing children. How well do you know Jack Kerouac? Kerouac typed his famous novel On the Road in just 3 weeks on a continuous scroll of paper, which he taped together so he wouldn't have to pause to change sheets. He was deeply influenced by Buddhism and incorporated Buddhist themes and concepts into his writing. Kerouac struggled with alcoholism for most of his life and died of internal bleeding due to cirrhosis of the liver at the age of 47. He wrote his first novel, The Town and the City, in a style more reminiscent of the traditional novel before developing his signature stream of conscious style. Kerouac was a devout Catholic and considered becoming a monk before pursuing writing, although his beliefs sometimes conflicted with his bohemian lifestyle.